work in Rwanda. He started a group, a non-profit organization called Voices of Rwanda, where he's taking testimonies of survivors of the genocide in Rwanda and doing really important and impressive work. And I think the project come out of the Fortunov. Are we connected to the Fortunov?
Yeah, it was the inspiration of the project and advisories helping us in the process for sure.
I don't know, for those of you who don't know, the Fortunov archive here at Yale is one of the first video testimonial project on Holocaust survivors, which is, I think, very important work over the years. Taylor is really doing impressive work, and his reputation precedes him where he goes. So I'm glad you're here, and he's here with Berthe. So.
Does Taylor have a last name?
Krause. Taylor Krause. And Taylor and Berthe and I, just to start to introduce Berthe, we all met in Geneva on a very auspicious occasion. It was the Durban II Review conference in the United Nations, and it was, actually we were speaking about how Berthe saw Mr. Ahmadinejad, and we all met representatives of the regime there, and yeah, it was a very intense week or so in Geneva. And what was really, I think, amazing and impressive, and I really think that something started in Geneva, that there was a group of people from Rwanda, from across the world, from Europe and Israel, young Jewish people, women groups, gay groups, people fighting for democracy, and I think we all kind of, people from Darfur, there was people from the north of Africa, the Berber community was there. It was a sort of a loose affiliation of people coming together to fight really a reactionary social movement as represented by Iran and others that were there. And we all met and had very intense meetings and participated on panels together and protested together. So it was very, I think, a very special time that groups are now in contact with each other. I think something positive and progressive has started.
Why do you think Iran was there?
Why were they there? Well, Ahmadinejad was the only, why was he there? It was actually Yom HaShoah that we met.
I mean, he wasn't trying to get enlightened, I'm sure.
No, he was there to spread his message of hate, which he does very effectively. And I won't get into it, but when he addressed, I don't want to get too much of it, but when he addressed the General Assembly, he was the only leader of any nation to come to address the meeting, and he actually spoke in the narrative of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And I would argue that this is something that's even more of a long-term threat than Iran's nuclear weapons program, that he's really unleashed into the world he's resuscitated the narrative of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and this is literally being spread rapidly through much of the Middle East and through parts of South America and parts of Africa and even in North America. And this is something that we really need to start to map and to understand what's going on. And it's an area of research that has not been done, literally. So on that note, so Berthe Kayitesi, I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. So Berthe is going to speak today on a world of contradictions, anti-Semitism, Antitutsism, and never again. Berthe is now based at the University of Ottawa, where she's doing a PhD. She's also teaching French classes at St. Anne University, and she's been doing this since 2007. She's also an ambassador to the Friends of Tebeho, which is to support the reconstruction and the resilience of young survivors of the genocide in Rwanda, and particularly those who have been orphaned by the genocide. Her research focuses on issues of resilience of the survivors of the genocide committed against the Tutsis of Rwanda, on issues of racism, anti-Semitism, and genocide denial, which you'll hear is also a movement that's relevant to the Rwandan context. She was born in Gisenyi, which is a western province in Rwanda. I won't go into details, but she was personally impacted by the genocide. She left Rwanda, and in 1999 to 2000, she did a BA in education at the Adventist University in Central Africa. She then went on to do a master's degree in education at the University of Trois-Rivières in Quebec, in Canada. She's written widely. She has an acclaimed autobiography entitled Demain ma vie, enfant chef de famille dans le Rwanda après. And she's written other books as well. So she's really an accomplished scholar and human rights activist, and it's really an honor and a privilege that you're here. So.
Thank you, Professor Smore. Thank you, everyone, for being here and sharing what I have to share with you. I'm sorry with my English. Sometimes the words not come easily, but I think it will be fine. The subject of today was not really among my interests. I was affected by them, but I was working on resilience of children household in Rwanda before I went in Geneva. And while in Geneva, I was emotionally impacted by what I heard there. Among what I hear, Ahmadinejad's speech, and also someone from Rwanda who was denying genocide against Tutsi by presenting herself as a genocide survivor. So this evening, I would love to share with you why have I, as a Rwandan, as someone from Africa, far from Middle East, far from West, if I can say, why am I have to be worried by Ahmadinejad's speech? Kotler was here maybe in the first session, and he addressed a phrase, a sentence, which inspired me on what I'm going to say today. He told that why it may begin by Jews, it doesn't end by Jews. And I know what really that means, as I am coming from Rwanda. During the Durban Review Conference, I was just in front of Ahmadinejad while he was giving his speech. I get inside by curiosity as what really he's going to say. I put my microphone and I heard. At one moment, he said that Jews are using their suffering to colonize, to make the genocide in Middle East to Palestinian people. I was before immersed in reading testimonies from survivors of Holocaust. I had read primarily testimonies. I had read Robert Antarmewan. I had read Charlotte de Beauvoir, and at that time I was published mine from Rwanda. And when I heard him saying that suffering was a pretended suffering, I feel, even if I am not a Jew, I feel like he was addressing that speech to me. He was saying what I was just wrote in my own book was not true. I was too much concerned. And from there, I being aware from what is really anti-Semitism. Even if I was immersed in testimonies from survivors, I didn't know necessarily what was anti-Semitism. Many testimonies are focused on period of persecution, but not the whole process which bring people to the camp, the concentration camp. And at that time, I had a chance to meet Charles and to have this chance today to read about it. So I began to read on anti-Semitism. And what I read, I found that it was a very big, I didn't yet found a term which can really help me to express my emotion and what I felt during my reading about anti-Semitism. Or what I think you are more informed than I about this subject. But I realized that it is not a concern for Jewish community. It is for all of us. When we first did during the review conference, it was a call for a rising Israel. And as we know, nothing can happen one time in history. In Rwanda in 1994, it was 15 years after Holocaust. So today, if we don't react, if we don't get engaged, if what Ahmadinejad is saying comes true, what will happen to others? I don't think that, I'm not saying that things are copying from which one context to another, but historically there are many variations, but that variations don't mean that things are not happening. Things happen differently, but are somehow called same thing. What I didn't like in Ahmadinejad's speech, many things. I didn't like when he used word genocide by denying Holocaust. As we know, the word genocide came from Holocaust. How did someone can use that word by denying? I think if he has to use a word genocide, he has to find another term. I think by using the word genocide, he is agreeing that Shoah has happened, that Holocaust happened. And then what he is really saying is it happened, but we want it happen again. But I'm not sure that he's denying. His denial has many buffets. I think for me he has to find another word if he wanted to deny what happened to Jews of Europe. And again, he cannot deny Holocaust without denying all other genocides. As I began, I felt his speech was directed to me. And why? Why? Because of all what happened in the Second World War. Give a reference to all happened before or after. As one writer said somewhere, Shoah is, or the literature did around the Shoah, gives all other genocide a way to be defined. So by denying the Shoah, all genocide are denied in some way. That is why we have really to be all worried. I'm gonna just read the sentence of one writer. The start of the 20th century was marked by the Armenian genocide, in 1955, immediately followed by the World War I, then by the Shoah, and more recently by the long line of Cambodian, Rwandan, and Yugoslavian genocides, to name a few. However, the Shoah remains in this century the paradigm of social and psychological catastrophe. The experience acquired through the testimonies of survivors of Shoah allows us to understand other extreme experiences, whether they be posterior or anterior. The scale of the catastrophe and the scale of the studies dedicated to it, and which continue to grow, make up a fundamental corpus for the understanding of genocide phenomena, which, for that matter, annoys some who periodically attempts to sit on the destruction of the Jews of Europe by the Nazis. So, as I said, Rwandan and other community who go through the genocide had to worry, but also other people. For now, genocide didn't repeat somewhere 2 times. So others who are not included today could be also worried for tomorrow. But specifically for the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda and the Shoah had many things in common, from colonialism to the genocide. The word Jew has been founded in Rwanda literature from Nero-Hamitic myth, which is really a myth. But some people take and took myth as a reality. While settlers, colonialists came in Rwanda, did a big mistake. By saying that Tutsi were coming from somewhere else. I think from that point, they erased them to their homeland. And symbolically, they killed them, if I can say that. Later, that myth from coming at Hamitic descent, at Semitic descent, were used by killers, saying that we're gonna kill them and then put the body in the river of Nyabarongo, and from Nyabarongo they will go back to Ethiopia, where they are coming from. So for the first time, I think anti-Semitism has a small meeting with Antitutsism, but I cannot say that it was anti-Semitism as we had it in the West. And it was not anti-Semitism to Tutsi. Tutsi died as Tutsi, not as a Jew. But during that time of colonialism, what is circulating today by internet was circulating by people who are discovering other countries. And I think where the Jews and the Tutsi meet, but from a myth. So I think it is important to see if perpetrators use really that myth or not. I know that by persecuting Tutsi, they persecuted them as Tutsi, not by Jews. But at the time of killing, they told us, we're gonna put you in the river and you will go back to Ethiopia, where you are coming from. So that, I think research can be done. We will never know, as perpetrators has really their own truth. which we cannot discover easily. But studies can be, I think it is necessary to go through studies and continue to discover what is really that mean. But today, many researchers interested in Rwandan genocide are also use Shoah as a framework. But I think also it is necessary to take to be careful, not fusing a memory for genocide in another, but also acknowledging which is common in the both experiences. Now I'm gonna talk about the second event during the Durban Review Conference, where someone presented herself as a victim of genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda, while his father used to discriminate and exclude the children, Tutsi children in schools. It is a logic, a normal logic. After a genocide, I don't know what happened in the mind of victims, no, perpetrators, but they wanted to be called victims. So in Geneva, we faced an event like that. He was invited to present a testimony as a survivor, but she was not. I found that it is very problematic because before the genocide there is a discrimination. During the genocide there is an elimination, and after the genocide, if the space of survivors are occupied by people from the perpetrators, where is the place of a survivor? No one. It is like to erase her or him a second time. And as one person mentioned somewhere, testimony for survivors are helpful as they help them to reconnect with life again by sharing those testimonies. So if they don't have space, what to do? That was another kind of denying, which is really present in Rwanda, but outside too. Survivors from Holocaust faced the same thing. And I don't know how to cope with that, but it is very, very problematic. I think we have to think about it. We have to see how that space has not to be occupied by people who are not really survivors. But in Rwanda, I think there is another problem. Killers and survivors shares language, shares culture, shares almost everything. And many children who had parents as perpetrators, it is very difficult to manage with their parents. And I think they are trying to find a refugee in the victims' community. It is another problem, but which is somehow, we can understand it, but how to overcome it, I think we have just to think about it. I would like to add something about the word never again. It was very difficult for me to work on it. I was thinking, well, I am from Rwanda. I did what I can to let people know what happened there. But probably tomorrow we will say that Darfur was a genocide, and in a United Nations we hear Ahmadinejad openly giving a speech to the whole world and calling for another genocide, and I was really confused what to say for really never again. Yeah, it is still difficult for now to. I tried to write. I tried to find what others wrote, but it is still not enough for me. There a Senegalese writer who said that a genocide is not a conceived event, and something you cannot conceive, it is not easy to represent it to yourself. And I think Primo Levi also in one of his book said it. He said that before the Holocaust, message were there, message calling for the genocide were there, but it was too big to believe it. So are we in the same way? Are we thinking that it is too big to react? So that I think it was one of response. The other response of what never again is not happening really, I think there is a psychological distance, and there is also a real distance between people. Now in Canada, sometimes I talk with my friends, and they are sharing me what they were doing in '94, or what their parents were doing. They were in a normal life, as our perpetrators in Rwanda were in also somehow in a normal life. And they told me, you know, it was so far. Yes, we saw it on the TV, but it was so far. I can't blame them. It was really, the reality is that it was really far. But it is really far, even if now we meet. It is not far if we want to make it approach. I think it is what Taylor is doing in Rwanda by collecting those testimonies, by coming in the US and sharing them with different students. I think he is just breaking that distance. I think it is what Charles is doing without with inviting me and other people. I think it is possible to get together, but we have to have that desire. That desire is not for all persons. So I think I'm gonna stop here and just hear questions. With questions, I'm more.
Yes, good. So thank you very much. Thank you. So to pick up on your theme, I remember after I spoke in Geneva that you and your colleagues invited me to speak, and one of the questions that everybody was asking is why, given the history of the Shoah and the Jewish people, and given the experience in Rwanda of the Tutsis, that many people are asking me why the Jewish community is quiet, that there are many professors and there's many business people and professional people, and why are they quiet? And people are saying, don't you understand what's happening in Israel, that the words, the dehumanizing words that are so powerful of Ahmadinejad and others in Israel, why aren't people reacting? And I would even go further by saying that the experience of people who are trying to bridge the gap on this issue of incitement to genocide when it comes to Israel and Zionists and Jews, that there's, in the academy, I would even say there's an antagonism, that people perceive us to be right-wing or not, or exaggerating, or not doing proper research, or being politicians, or defending Israel at all costs and not being objective. In the Rwandan so why do you think that's happening? And was there something similar in the Rwandan context? Were there people warning the society that this is going to be very bad and it's very dangerous, and were people antagonistic to them? Is there something similar that happened, or why do you think this is happening? What's the why is there such a, I don't know if it's denial, but certainly a silence in the face of this genocidal anti-Semitism? And was there a silence in Rwanda? Are there similarities? And if there are similarities, why do you think there is this silence? When something is so, at one level, it's so clear. When Ahmadinejad speaks, he's, and his disciples, and then the religious leaders, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, they're clear, they're concise, they're consistent, they're straightforward, they tell the world what they're going to do. Why this silence?
That is a very good question and a difficult one.
Was it similar in Rwanda? Or?
Yeah, in Rwanda, there's something closed. I do remember during the genocide, there are many misinformation. During the 3 months, Tutsi were killed only because they burned Tutsi. And at the end, as the RPF, the opposition military, who were composed by few Tutsi, but Hutu too, was advancing, many Hutu went out of the country. There are a big humanitarian cases, and then the world, I think, forgotten very easily the 3 months, and responds the more on the crisis of refugees. And among those refugees in Congo, there were many killers. I think Bernard-Henri Lévy from France wrote a book about it by saying, during that crisis, we closed our eyes from the true genocide. And I think media and humanitarian could really, by helping, it's okay to help people who are refugees, but they do know that among all those refugees, they were many killers. So later, all those killers, after the genocide was end up, the killers were in Congo, and after there was the war in Congo, and now these wars are very criticized by many researchers, but I think they forgot. They forgot the international responsibility. The international community, by helping all those refugees who were Hutu, would found a way also to distanciate killers and those who were not killers. But they didn't really do these jobs. So I think, I don't know what happened in the world, but there a big conspiracy, I don't know if it's complicity with killers, without really wanting it, but I think it is easy to go with the side of perpetrators than the victims on. I don't know really what happened in the mind. It is a very difficult question, but for the genocide, there is a big silence than two other things. I forget.
Thank you. So Edith.
Yes, so I was interested in what you said about psychological distance, and I'm interested to know what type of distance. I was thinking about this question empirically. Do you mean, is it like that it's difficult to take the perspective of people that are geographically distant, or is it that we think Rwanda is a neglected place, nobody knows where it is, and so is this the distance, or is it, because like if I think of the Jews, or anti-Semitic, everybody speaks of the Holocaust, so it's not, maybe it's not exactly the same. So what do you think, like what type of distance, what did you feel? I mean, I don't know if you were here, if you were in Rwanda when it happened.
I was in Rwanda.
You were there.
Yeah.
Did you feel that nobody cares?
Oh yeah.
So maybe this is even more interesting. What were you thinking that is happening in the world? I mean, were you expecting things to be?
Well, it is really difficult to expect something from people you don't know, and I was 15 years old. I didn't think about international community or people from everywhere, somewhere else, but just being killed by our neighbors, it was too much. The distance, I am trying to think about it now, right now. And I think the psychological distance, when, for example, we saw something on TV, how are we reacted? So if emotionally it is too much, do we close it and go to a cinema? Something which helps us to forget. Yeah, found a movie, or do we let our emotion go and trying to overcome those emotions? I think they were a very distant psychological distance, but at the same time, for not the whole people. There are people who are doing a great work in Rwanda today, and I think it became from the no distance which happened in '94. I was receiving a few weeks ago someone at my home. He's doing a research about the survivors in Rwanda, and he told me it is from the image I saw. I didn't know that I will do something with the emotion I had on that time, but I think this is my response for now. So,
yeah. And as a child there or adolescent, did you expect the world to help? I mean, because somebody came here and said that it was in the media all the time. I mean, before it happened in Rwanda, I mean, there were many, many notes that this is about to happen. Mm-hmm. So were people trying to rebel or to do anything or to protest or to try to, to connect people out of Rwanda, or were they more like victims that they were not happy? What happened there? What is the dynamic?
The dynamic is difficult to describe. A genocide is not an accident. It is coming from a very long process, and it's a very long process of dehumanization and animalization of the future victims. And as I was saying, it is you are saying it coming, but you are not really believing in it. Many years before the genocide in Rwanda, as I was saying, Tutsi didn't have full access at the school, only primary school. We did easily our primary school, but getting to the secondary school, they were a quota. Sometimes some Tutsi used to buy to buy access for school, those who had means, but other not necessary. Many boys went to the seminar for becoming a priest because it was the way it was easy. Other went outside of Rwanda, studying there in remote countries where they were other Tutsi refugees from the years of 1950. So all that is a preparation. How do we manage to accept that we don't have to go to school as others, even if we have good notes as others? That is a kind of dehumanization at a point. Also, when a parent are asking to his boy, don't play with that boy, he is a crocodile. That is an animalization. So when a genocide, that preparation, I think it is both for the future victims and also for those who will be perpetrators. And when it come, somehow for Tutsi who were in Rwanda, it was like, that is our day. Now we are going to be killed. And it was very easy also for the perpetrators to go to the job. But I cannot say that they were not a resistance. I think they were a resistance, but who were more who was more psychological than physical. It was not easy as it was perpetrated by the government, and the government is very powerful. It is not easy to react on it, but by trying to study, even if you don't have easy access, by just keeping in life, keeping going in life, it was a kind of resistance, even if it doesn't help during the genocide. I don't know if I respond well.
Yeah, I was just going to add that it is strange. I mean, there has been outrage here and around the world about Darfur. And yet with everything, the most potent things we've been able to do were economic sanctions. Politics turned out to be more powerful than ethics or morality. And it seems not to matter about world outrage if there is no political appetite and collaboration at the UN Security Council to go in, and no country will go in alone, which is, to me, disgraceful. But it's the way it works. I don't remember that kind of outrage with any other genocide. Perhaps because of Rwanda and people realizing that they did not really hear it, didn't really tune into it until it was too late. It set the stage for the international general community to be so outraged about Darfur. I don't know, it's an interesting dilemma, but I certainly know with all of the people I know who have been working around the Darfur issues, it is enormously frustrating.
Do you want to speak about the role of the UN in the genocide in Rwanda?
Yeah, I think the UN closed their ears,
Right.
not because they didn't know, they
Right.
knew.
Yeah.
they knew and they let it happen. They were many calls from Romeo Dallaire, who was in Rwanda, and they prefer to take their soldiers from Rwanda. While during the big period of killings, they took out their soldiers and let us being killed. When I was invited in Geneva, I was thinking, really, I'm gonna enter in that house, in that institution. I was very, very angry, and my friends told me, no, you can't just react like that. You have to go. But they knew before the genocide. They knew after. I think I have a good sentence here, which is related to that refusal UNAMIR to intervene, and I think there's a kind of denial. There's a kind of complicity. It's a phrase from Ternon, who is in France and who is working on genocide. And he wrote, the UN refused to intervene in January 1994 to disarm soldiers and militia who declared the revolution to kill the Tutsis. The withdrawal of UNAMIR troops in April 1994, UN's refusal to order a vast peacekeeping operation in April and May, the refusals of the Security Council to identify the massacres as a genocide, the declaration of heads of state and the high-ranking Western officials speaking about the genocide had just taken place in terms of double genocide, comparing the exile of Hutus ordered by the Hutu power and the humanitarian disaster that it engendered to another genocide. These versions, these cover-ups, these lies were only the facets of the same phenomenon of negation of international amnesia, according to the political interests. So there are some interests which are more important than genocide. I think there were also a sentence that in Rwanda there was no petrol. So
No
oil. No oil. So as there is no oil, we don't need to go there. It is just people who are dying and so.
You may have seen that the President of France was in Rwanda the past couple days and apologized for, he actually admitted to error. I don't know exactly what he said, but he went willing to talk about this on the basis of France had erred. What I wondered about is in those, you left Rwanda in 1999, did Charles say, or a little bit later?
Sorry?
When did you leave Rwanda?
I leave Rwanda in 2004.
Okay. Well, let's take a 5-year period, 5 years after the genocide. Can you perhaps describe to us what was happening, both in terms of how individuals were sort of picking up the pieces of their lives and what the government was trying to do in those 5 years? I mean, you can go beyond, but...
Yeah, I can try. The first thing, it is the disconnection. I was in Rwanda before '94, and I went in Congo for just 3 months during the genocide. After escaping really by miracle. Sometimes I am really safe, yes. But I went through the genocide. I saw people being killed. If I am here today, It is really by miracle. I have been at a semester for being killed, but I escaped and I went to Congo. I lost my parents and many my family members, as many survivors. After coming back in Rwanda, I realized how the two words, the before and the after, passing by the through, will never be the same. There were many children who became orphans. There were many women who used to have children who were alone. There were some men who were alone, who used to have families. And there were many other Tutsi who used to live in our limit of countries who were coming back in Rwanda who were really entering in a country where many blood were passed a few months ago. And for some Tutsi who passed many years outside of Rwanda, they were somehow happy to be at home. And they were killers, some who were in Congo, but others who were in Rwanda. So they were kind of, at that time, many identities. I remember while working, we were, oh, where are you coming from? I am coming from Burundi. Where are you coming from? I am coming from Uganda. Where are you coming from? I am coming from Tanzania. So we described ourselves as coming from, and others said, oh, we were in Rwanda. When you said you were in Rwanda, okay, are you survivor or you are not? So we had many identities, even if we were all Rwandese. But the community of survivors are really were very down. So the reconstruction took many steps, and it is not easy. The government was trying to just to be stable, and individually people were trying to go through a trauma and needs of life, but it was another kind of life. Are there another
Can I go further?
Yeah.
The government eventually developed these, and I'm mispronouncing it, I'm sure, the gotcha courts.
Gotcha courses?
Those courts. How do you think they work reasonably well?
Oh, that is a huge question for me. I refused to go through the church. I think politically, it is not easy for me to criticize the church, but personally, I can. Politically, the government was facing a huge difficulty. Many killers in the prisons, and they had to find something to. Yeah, they have to manage all those prisons. They do have to find a solution. So they bring up that traditional justice, which was not really for cases like genocide case. And what the way it is going on, I don't know really if it is helpful for survivors or even for perpetrators. Even if I don't mind perpetrators, but I'm not sure if it is helpful too. It is like we are here, like this evening, and probably Taylor killed my father. And he has to go up and address it to me how he did it. Or I have to say how I saw him killing my parents. He can say, no, I do never know your parents, you are lying. In front of an assembly who came for that. So for survivors, when many went there, it is for getting some information about how the family members were killed. Because many people know that their family members died, but they don't know where. They don't know where the body were put during the genocide. So when they go in the Gacaca, they can have some information. But at the same time, emotionally things from genocide come out, and it is not easy. The other danger for now, we have almost 200 survivors who were killed because of testifying into Gacaca courts. As you know, for killers, survivors are reminding that they killed. You meet him, you know that he is a killer, and for him it is not easy to accept that you are there to testify that he killed. So there are many problems with Gacaca, but particularly I think the government didn't found another way to overcome the problem.
Are there many?
It's Neil and Michelle.
Okay. My question's related to the last question. It seems to me that with the Holocaust, after it happened, it was for quite a few years, it was very clear who the bad guys were and who the good guys were, and who the victims were and who the perpetrators were. And that recently, maybe after 50 years, it starts to break down a little. You start seeing movies like The Reader, which make the perpetrator look somewhat sympathetic, and then you see an attempt with some of the to sometimes make the Jews look like they are guilty of equal sorts of crimes against Palestinians, and perhaps implying therefore that that all people are basically the same, and there's a loss of moral clarity as you get further away with the Holocaust, and that it also seems that social scientists push in the same direction, that they that anybody under those circumstances could do the same sort of thing, and that there's a breakdown of clear assignment of guilt and responsibility. Now, it seems to me that in Rwanda, it's happening it happens much quicker, and it's much more difficult, partly because first of all, there were a lot of moderate Hutus who were killed. So the killing was not only against Tutsis, and so it's not clear that it was as Hutus as bad guys and Tutsis as good guys. There were plenty of Hutus who were also killed. But another thing is that the Tutsis are in a real small minority, and they have to get along with the perpetrators. And so any real truth-telling or any real assignment of moral responsibility is going to be something that's going to get in the way of future relations. So I was just wondering if you could comment on whether you think there are forces that are kind of working against the assignment of moral responsibility in the Rwanda genocide.
That is a good question. I think first there are many misinformation Americans, how to say, amalgam?
Amalgam.
Yeah,
Oh.
amalgam. I think in Rwanda and also for what is happening in the Middle East, they are using the term genocide where it doesn't, where there is not each conflict is became a genocide.
Right.
And I don't know why people need to call a genocide where it is not a genocide. I think they think really there is something to gain with that word.
Mhm.
They are really nothing. For me, if I could give that part of my life to someone, I will really give it easily. It is someone I don't like to have in my life, but people need to be called the victims of genocide when it is not true. And in Rwanda, it is what happened. I can't say that they were not Hutu who has been killed. Yes, but it was not a genocide. Never. And in today's life, they want that to call it a genocide. And then they will say, okay, yes, we made a genocide, and the Tutsi made another genocide, and now it is equal.